I come to Comic-Con every year as just a fan lining up with Hall H and all that, and this is the first time I'm from Canada. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to be on a panel with the most amazing astronaut from my country and the most amazing space captain in all the verse from my country. I was like, this is going to be pretty amazing.
Go Canada.
If you have any space questions, you can also, I'll take a crack at a couple.
You can't take the sky from him.
Reavers, right, Chris?
Oh, it's not going to get better than that.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to open up the floor to some questions because you guys, there's somebody here. I know you want to know something about somebody at this, on the panel. Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Right here in the front row.
Hey, this is a question for our space people, not you, Nathan. Sorry.
Understood.
Real space
Real
people.
space people.
That's fair.
I'm wondering, in your mind, what is our generation's moonshot, and what's it going to take to get there?
I'm not sure that every generation should have a moonshot. I think doing something for the first time only happens once. And then after that, everybody wants to have a first landing on the moon every couple of years, which doesn't work. And if we decided that our moonshot should be a Mars shot and we should have a first landing on Mars, I mean, things didn't go well after the first moon landing. I mean, the whole thing crumped, and the last 2 launches got canceled, and there was a huge lull before the... You can't fly in space just for the entertainment value. It has to be part of a long-term program. And we left Earth 15 years ago. We got 3 people living up there right now, and the stuff we're learning on station is going to take us to a permanent base on the moon and eventually Mars. So I don't think moonshot is what you should be looking for. I think it's take the initial changes and then build on it to slowly explore and eventually launch with a companion somewhere. Which seemed like a pretty good deal to me, actually.
That's an excellent question. Nathan, you and I were talking backstage. If we were astronauts, we would start every conversation with,
Yeah, well, when I was in space.
the thing about working in space is,
If you were to run for political office, every debate is over before it starts. You're like, look, have you been to space? I didn't think so.
you know what you need? Perspective.
Perspective.
See from space.
Yeah. You look so small from up there.
I can see all your houses from here. Another question? Right over here, the young man. Did you have a question? Were you waving your hand? You just saying hi? I'll say hi. Oh, don't be shy. Knock it up. Nice work.
Yeah.
When did you come up with that song, You Can't Take the Sky Away From Me? You know that?
That's a good question. That song's a theme song to Firefly. I don't know if you know that. A little something I wrote right after I wrote the pilot. That was actually Joss Whedon wrote that, and I kind of listened to it. I went, I don't get it. It doesn't sound spacey at all. And then I saw the visuals, and he put it all together. I was like, oh, I'm so dumb. That's so great. Speaking of music and space, Chris, certain music video.
Yeah, there's a guitar up on the space station. Actually, I helped build a... Yeah, sounds bad. And on my first space flight, I helped build a... I helped build a Russian space station Mir on my first space flight. And there was an old guitar up on the Russian space station made in St. Petersburg. And I realized when I got up to Mir, that's a great idea, because you're up there for months or years at a time, and you need not just the science, but you need the culture and all the other stuff that goes along with it. And so our psychiatrists at NASA learned from it, and they put a guitar up on the space station on one of the shuttle flights in August of 2001. And that guitar has been up there ever since. Then it gets played pretty much every day. And I wrote a bunch of music up there and recorded it, and have an album coming out next month.
Get out!
Yes.
Oh, yeah, plug it.
But
Songs from
we
space?
say dropping.
yeah, well, it's just true. But I also, my son Evan convinced me to do that version of Space Oddity, which just, it went crazy. How that
it did.
turned out. Yeah, it's been seen.
I totally watched it.
Yeah,
Sing it right now.
yeah, it's been seen like.
We'll back you up. Come on, go ahead.
Think of all the backup vocals in Space Oddity. Anyway, yeah, it's been seen all over the place. But I think the interesting part of that is people that didn't even know there was a space station see it different as a result. And I was thinking about this earlier today. I was hugely inspired to actually fly in space by science fiction and Star Trek and 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's what opened up my whole mind to the thought that this could even happen. And then followed all the practical stuff to actually fly in space. So if me playing that song up there lets someone see what it's actually like on a spaceship and opens up their mind to think about it differently, to me that's a big win. So I'm glad it worked out.
I'm glad we have that guitar up there in space.
Can I ask him a question? Is it
Please,
okay?
please.
So when I visited, was hanging out with food people at Johnson Space Center a few years ago. They asked me to try to figure out how to get popcorn to the space station. The popcorn was this real big problem because everybody wanted it, and I was like, "Well, you microwave it." Well, we can't because the explosive bolts to the mirror are set up by magnetrons, so we can't do that. And you can't send it up already popped because it vibrates into little bitty bits of dust. Did you guys ever get your popcorn?
Yeah, popcorn balls. We bring up, have you seen those that are glued together like a ball?
So that's the
Trouble is,
answer.
when you bite into it, you know, all that little popcorn dust, then it goes everywhere and it's in your eyes and floats all over. So you get over one of the vents that has a nice tight filter on it, you lean over the vent, and you eat your popcorn ball, and then you vacuum it up when you're done.
You have literally
Science!
every first world problem. Better living through vacuums.
That's not even a first world problem, is it? I don't know what that other world.
Well, when you're up there with nothing but some smelly guys and a guitar, that's a big deal.
That's what I was gonna. Okay, I heard from a guy with a mohawk who happens to be sitting 2 seats down from me, that the space station actually smells really bad. Yeah? No? Confirm? Because, like, there's no
Space-
vents.
The space shuttle smelled really bad. Space shuttle smelled, because it was little and had 7 people, no bathing facilities, no sink, and you could stay up there for 2 weeks. So it was like 7 people in a camper van for 2 weeks with your toilet's in there with you. So it was not great. But the space station, I was there for half a year, and you never once smelled another person at all. Never, none. It was. You know, if you go into a toilet after someone else used the toilet,
Go on.
yeah, you know. Sometimes it's like, don't go in there for a few. On the space station, you could go in right after somebody else. No smell, never, ever. It worked out really well.
Why?
Even if they'd had a popcorn ball.
Even, yeah, so to speak.
But was the
yeah.
thing that attaches to you still warm?
You were lucky, yes.
What I love about this entire conversation is that it looks like the best candidates for living in space are total stoners. You've got guitars, snack food, and it smells awful.
I've totally eaten a bag of Cheetos over a vacuum cleaner to keep the dust down.
And I've totally said somebody open an airlock, because... Another question? Please, right here. Young lady, yes, you.
Adam, I loved the lead balloon episode. That's still my favorite. But my question is actually for Chris.
Guys, we're on a panel with an astronaut. We get it.
He's an astronaut. I watched so many of your videos of wringing the towel out with water and seeing the water. And it was awesome. But my question is, what was your recovery time and what was the recovery like when you came back to Earth after being up there so long?
So we have a choice of trying to make gravity on the spaceship or not, right? And you can't control gravity. All you could do is spin it or something like in 2001 or, you know, some ideas. But to spin a spaceship is so mechanically complex. And, you know, how do you point your antennas and how do you steer? And what if the spinning parts don't work and all the metal you need? So we have decided it's not worth spinning your spaceship so far. We'll live without gravity. Trouble with that is, of course, without gravity, your body doesn't get any exercise, but it has some real fundamental changes. So when I came back, my balance system didn't work. My heart couldn't lift the blood up to my head anymore, so you faint all the time. My immune system was depressed, my heart got smaller, and I lost a lot of bone. So when I came home, all of those things had happened. So I came home, it's more like your stoner probably. I felt all weak and stumbled around and wanted to throw up all the time. It's just how I felt. But that stuff passes within a few days. You feel sort of normal after a few days. And then after a couple weeks, you're almost like but I couldn't run for about 4 months. My heart and my balance system, my muscles couldn't keep up. And it took about 1.5 years to grow the muscle or the bone density back into my hips and my upper femur. But after about 1.5 years, back to normal enough now. Took 1.5 years. Yeah.
This is why I work with robots, because we can spin those spacecraft all the time. Much easier.
Do the robots have guitars to keep their humanity?
No, but we did play a will.i.am song once from Mars. I don't know.
Wasn't that the?
Is there an iPod on the rover?
There's a hard drive. I mean,
same thing. Another question, please.
My question is for Alton. You're involved.
Well, thank God, finally. Because I got to tell you right now, I'm never doing a panel with a freaking astronaut ever again. It's just so interesting. Go ahead. And please take your time, would you?
She's going to ask you what you think about
If you were Chris Hadfield.
Could I introduce her to him?
Can we send him back to space?
Go ahead.
You've been involved with so many food and TV and all these successful shows. So my question is, why do you think that food and television is becoming increasingly popular? And how do you keep creative and innovative with that?
Okay, so the first answer is easy. I think the second one's harder. So your question was why? Why essentially when, say, 20 years ago, there were just a few cooking shows, mostly starring Julia Child and funny French guys, why all of a sudden it's become an entire industry? I believe, because I've thought about this a lot and trying to plot my own trajectory, that's an astronaut kind of term, that in this day and age, with society being very fractured, the internet changed everything for the way we communicate with each other, the way that we socialize with each other. We actually have very little culturally in common with each other anymore, or we don't really identify it. However, you talk to anthropologists, and they'll tell you that there are two things that all people groups on Earth want to do in a group situation. Doesn't matter how cosmopolitan or how remote they are. They want to laugh in a group, and they want to eat in a group. So I believe that as we become more fractured as a society, we need food to hold us all together as a peoples, because we all got to eat. Even occasionally New York supermodels must take in calories or they will die. And it connects us to each other, it connects us to our heritage, connects us to our families. We crave that. We crave that tangible connectivity. As for your second question about keeping creativity going, for me, it's just a matter of looking around. I mean, I steal vast amounts from popular culture in my own work. So it's just simply a matter of tuning in your receptors and just kind of watching everything that's going on. Other than that, I have absolutely no freaking idea. Thank you for that very astute series of questions.
You, sir, please.
Hello. I just wanted to ask about robot sports, robot fighting, robotics.
Like battle bots, maybe?
Exactly. Just in general, just what do you guys think? I feel like this is the best.
I'm for it.
Yeah.
When my robots fight, I give them timeouts.
It's very Northern California of you, though, isn't it? I place bets on mine.
I mean, obviously, Bobak and I are on the new BattleBots. What? Please watch it. 9 p.m.
Please.
ABC, Sunday nights. Okay. But one of the things that I really appreciate that ABC is doing with the show is that they want robot combat to be seen as an actual sport. And their point to that being that, you watch sports today and there's so much controversy about concussions in the NFL or athletes getting seriously injured and ending their careers, and you can watch robot combat and you still get all the same thrill out of it, and you don't have to worry about anyone actually getting hurt, which is pretty awesome. And it's something you can watch.
Are you saying that robots don't have feelings, or they
Well,
can't feel?
they don't, maybe they get emotionally hurt. But yeah, so I'm hoping that robot combat is something that becomes bigger and bigger because of that, because it still gives us that thrill of competition without actually people getting injured for it.
Well, Can I add something to that? Because this just made me think, this is really fascinating, I think, because this is the way that modern warfare is going in a lot of ways too, right? You can keep a soldier out of combat. You can have a drone, but the drone may just be killing another drone, maybe killing it. So we are increasingly moving to keeping soldiers out of combat, which is a very, debatable military direction. But the point is, we're seeing that reflected in sports now and, in national defense. And I don't know. I think there's something to be. This guy could probably say
I want to make a point, though, that I think giving a gun to a robot is the stupidest idea possible. There is nothing worse than giving a gun to a robot. Because the first thing he's gonna be like, boom! Then he's gonna go for coffee.
But what's really, I've always been really fascinated about is like, it's always been very obvious when you go to war in the past. Because if one of our planes is flying somewhere and another country's plane comes and blows it up and a pilot dies, it's like, okay, we're going to war, they're attacking us. But if like another country's drone blows up your drone, like, is that now going to war?
Right, it's like my Roomba grabbed your Lego, yeah.
Right, it's like, okay, so we're gonna send more robots and they're gonna kill our robots. Are you at war at that point? It's not entirely clear, I don't know.
Well, and then it becomes one of the phrases they use in the military, push to go boom, because it becomes a place where you are so far removed from that conflict that, is there any human emotional resonance to the action? So like, what's to stop you next? All right, you shot down his drone, but if it's just as easy to blow up something and accept this many casualties, then, you, again, that distance, removing that human, kinetic experience, I guess, I think is also dangerous.
Let's ask the astronaut.
It's too heavy.
He's Canadian, guys. Canadians don't believe in war.
Just because no one wants to fight us. Sir in the green shirt. Right behind you.
Oh, cool. Hello, Nathan.
Hi.
I know a couple of people who worked with you. I mean, I've worked with Felicia, and one of my improv teachers once co-starred with you on One Life to Live, I think.
Oh, Get Out, really?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. God, I forgot. Sometimes I forget about these things. Anywho, I was hoping to ask this at the comment panel, and we're all doing what we do for genuine reasons. Now, when you I guess come into contact with someone you really admire, do you just lose it? Even though that's
when you met me earlier.
Even though that's breaking professional protocol,
Do I fan out? Do I geek out? Do I nerd out?
Yeah.
I totally do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you not see what I did when I sat down next to an astronaut?
Or Will Wheaton.
Or Will Wheaton, yeah. That's all I do at Comic-Con is freak out about the people I'm around. And then somehow they still talk to me afterwards. I don't know why.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to be a high school teacher in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and now I'm here hanging out with these guys. I'm nerding out constantly all the time. Side story, Chris. Last time I spoke to you, it was long distance. You were actually on the space station. I got a call from the ISS. We arranged this, and he didn't know who he was calling. He's like, "Who is this?" I'm nerding out. It was great. Another question, please. Hi, sweetie.
Hi, everybody. Oh my goodness, you're all wonderful.
Right,
so
we're nerding out.
So my question's for all of you, and since this is Nerds of Pop Culture, I was wondering, what's your favorite part about being a nerd in pop culture?
I particularly love coming here to Comic-Con. I was just driving here in one of the golf carts and looking at people, and the costumes that really, really invigorate me are the ones I don't understand at all. And it's like someone who's wearing all purple, but with an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper taped to their chest. Like they thought about it, and I have no idea what they're going for. And yet what they're thinking is, I'm going to let my freak flag fly totally. And so what I love about the nerd culture is I look at myself, and I think all of us up here do, as kind of permission machines. It's like, yeah, you know, being nerdy is giving in to the thing that you can't not do. And I love coming here because it's like an entire city filled with people doing exactly that.
Yeah, I've always been, like I said, I've came to Comic-Con many times as a fan. And for me, what was really powerful about it the first time that I came was, like, I'm not really, you know, I'm a white guy, I'm not religious, I'm not really a part of any kind of group, and had never really experienced being part of a group until I came to Comic-Con, and it was really like this moment of, even though I might not be into the same weird piece of square thing on your shirt as you are, or whatever show you're into, like every line that you are in, waiting with someone, you can just instantly start talking to them next to you because you're all part of the same kind of celebration, and you're all just so excited for everything, and I'm excited for whatever you're into, and you're just like instantly able to talk with everyone. Even on the, you know, I was staying way out of town, coming in on the train every day, and you know, there's an avatar standing there, and she's talking to Superman, and they're all just like talking about, you know, Firefly. And it's just like, and you're just like, yes, this is my people. This is amazing. Like, I would come here every year. And that's been kind of my favorite part of being a nerd, is finally finding a place like this where everyone can just celebrate it and accept it. And that's kind of the common thing that binds all of us, which I've always loved.
Claire.
I mean, I feel the same way. I always felt like I didn't have a lot of friends who shared the same interests that I did, and I moved out here and I started going to Comic-Con, and I started finding more and more friends that had the same interests that I do, and it's really nice to be around people that don't judge you, that instead celebrate the same things that you celebrate. It's nice.
Anyone else?
I just like the optimism and all. I think like nerds are really optimistic people. Kind of all trying to feel like they're making, you know, the world a little bit more their place, a little bit more welcoming for everybody. And I kind of love that vibe. And I think everybody, I mean, like just looking around this group of people, I feel the same way. I'm like, these are all people who are trying to do something to make everybody kind of part of their community and part of their world. And I like that. I mean, you're part of that. Chris is part of that. Claire, I mean, Alison and I are good friends. So it's kind of amazing.
That's a great word, optimistic. I love that.
One of the other awesome secret things is that because you're a professional nerd, you get to write off on your taxes all the nerd stuff that you
Yes!
It's like, you go to the movies, oh, that's a business expense. You buy a toy, yep.
Now, all that eBay surfing, deductible,
like,
every bit of it.
That's research, I'm sorry.
And what about now with not even just conventions, but also the internet? We have access now as nerds. We have access to the shows, to other stuff we want. We have access to you lovely people, to each other with conventions and the internet. We can access, I like that guy with the purple and the white thing. I'm so into that. There's like 6 other guys, and I found them on the internet.
Well, and also as things like Twitter, I particularly love Twitter. It's my favorite social media because it's a conversation with the fans. And it's a conversation I can dip into and understand what they're thinking and engage with the fans. And it changes, like, my Twitter feed is full of fantastic book, movie, and toy recommendations every single day. It's like this wonderful curated gallery for me and me for them. So it's like, that makes it wonderful.
Well, and I find utter validation in the fact that I now have a career within the pop culture nerd world, you know, because growing up, like you guys, like I didn't have a lot of friends who were into the same stuff. Like I went to Star Trek conventions with my parents. I went to space camp for 4 years. Yeah. Like,
But I did too, Chris.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah. I did too. I'm throwing that out there.
But, you know, like as a kid, thankfully my parents supported this kind of passion in me because they're super nerds as well. I didn't request to go to the Star Trek conventions. They just took me with them because they're huge Trek fans. But, you know, you grow up in this and you kind of don't find your place. And now all of a sudden, the entire reason I have a career is because I loved this stuff so much as a kid. And it's enabled me to find all these people and to connect with you guys and to find my friends and to find my, you know, my nerd family. And I think there's something really special in that. And I think it's awesome that today, in this day and age, that Comic-Con's the biggest event you can possibly go to. Like, nerd culture is here to stay, and it is huge, and everyone is into it. And it's not just, you know, when we were growing up, that you're not the weird one out anymore. You can find your people.
Well, and I think for me, Like I was trying to, before this panel, trying to think of what nerd really means now, because I was like, I don't know what this panel's about. You know, what are we talking? What does geek mean? What does nerd mean? Because it used to be like in school you had a pretty, I think, narrow understanding of like that's a nerd, but now everybody claims it. But I think that, like growing up, for me, what defined me as a geek or a nerd was that I like to dive deep into things. I like to know more about that. And like the cool kids, that was not, you know, superficial knowledge was fine because you got to move on and act like you don't care. But actually really caring about something and diving deep, and I think that that defines nerddom to me more than anything, because the person who wears that costume, they don't just like that character on TV, they dive deep. You know, they went all the way. And I may not dive deep into that, but I dive deep into my stuff. So I think that's nerddom. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's being passionate about something, because when you're super passionate about something, it's generally something that not the next person is really passionate about. And so that's sort of what being a geek is. And it's not just video games or Star Trek or whatever. It can also be sports. Like people super passionate about sports, you are totally a nerd.
When you memorize the stats? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if there's a conversation with Alison and her parents. Like, no, you're going, and this is what you're wearing. Ferengi, Mom.
No, I'm not joking. My parents would have, like at every season finale of the show, they would have a party with all of their other Star Trek fan friends, and they would dress me up as a little red-shirted ensign, and I would pass hors d'oeuvres when I was like 8 or 9.
And at the end of the episode, you die.
That's amazing. No, I had to go to bed.
Oh, right. Same as dying.
Couldn't stay up for the party. We actually made a cake shaped like the insignia for the series finale.
How'd it taste?
I'm sure it was delicious, but I was very young.
See, I want to dive deep. Another one, right here, please, the blue. Wonderful Haku shirt.
Hi, this question is for everyone. Well, first of all, thank you for donating your time. I know all of us here are happy to give our money to Operation Smile. If you could trade careers with anyone else on the panel, except for astronaut, whose career would you want?
Wait, with anyone on the panel?
I would trade with him. Because he can make anything. I make pie, you know? And I can cook a really good steak. He can like make a steak out of things that I can't pronounce. So I'll take his life.
I would trade with Alton because he makes pie, and I'm in.
My pie is freaking awesome.
I would definitely trade with Nathan. I think seeing how much fun it seems like he has with all of his friends that are all these other people I adore, and they all just hanging out making cool stuff. I was like, I mean, that's what I do with my friends, but all his friends are amazing people, so I just switcheroo, and then they'd all be my friends, and then that would be great.
I really like NASA. I'd trade with Bobak. I think that Bobak has a really cool job, and he just gets to go and hang out with scientists and smart people all the time and do something that's beneficial for our entire planet. So that's what I would do.
Thank you.
I would trade with Nathan because he wears cool costumes.
And I would love to know how to direct, how to take an idea that isn't anything concrete. There's no structure to it. You're taking someone's idea and you're going to turn it into some sort of product that other people understand in a whole new way. That's a whole different type of thinking to me, and I would love to learn how that works inside your head.
So the astronaut just said he wants to trade with me? Did that just happen?
Make that movie.
Yeah, okay, we gotta shake on this, right?
Remember,
Looks like
that
Freaky
includes
Friday is
stumbling
happening
around
right
and
now.
wanting to vomit for a year.
Yeah.
I can't because nobody else wants to be a writer. So I'm stuck. But I think I'd go with food. I think the art on that side is, yeah.
Well, the thing about being a food geek is that you get laid more than any other kind of geek.
Definitely trading places with
the
you.
way to a woman's heart.
Are you sure?
The way
I
to
didn't
a
realize it
woman's
was a
heart
contest.
still is the stomach. The way to the woman's heart is the stomach. And so if you can conquer that one, you know, I'm just saying.
So I guess I'd trade with you then.
Yeah, well,
I just want to ask real quick. Did you say, are you sure?
Yeah, I was looking at Nathan, though.
Before we move on, Zach, directing. I'm totally into zombies. You're directing a movie.
That's right.
Dead Rising.
That's right. I just finished directing the Dead Rising film, which is based on a really popular video game, which was incredibly fun to be able to play the video game like crazy, writing down every time you do something in the video game, and you're like, oh, we could do that in the movie. And then like writing it down and then going out and shooting it. It was super fun. And the amazing thing with a zombie movie is everybody you know wants to be a zombie. Like my Facebook feed was just every person I know being like, can I please be a zombie? So it just all your friends, you just get to walk them out and kill all of them. It was great.
That took a weird turn.
I changed my answer. I want to be that guy.
Do we have another question? Right in the front row, right here. But you have to stand up.
Oh, okay, sorry. My question's for Commander Hadfield. I just want to say thank you for being an absolutely incredible and inspiration ambassador for Ireland.
Thank you. Where in Ireland are you from?
I'm from Fermanagh, like up north, a bit to the right of Donegal, which I think you've been to.
I have.
Yeah. Of all your experiences and everything you've seen and done, both on land and in space, what is the one that you sort of struggle to put into words?
Actually, it's interesting now, actually, to go out at night when the space station's going to go over and look up and watch it go past. Because I know exactly what it's like to be on Earth and what normal life is like. And I know exactly what it's like to live on a spaceship, you know, and the perpetual feeling of it and the magic of it and the weightlessness and the world rolling by underneath. But when I look up and see the space station go over, and if you haven't, you really should, I can't connect the two in my head yet. I cannot yet reconcile the two of them together. And it's not like I don't understand them both. It's just they're such different human experiences that maybe later, maybe I'll be, and it's part of the reason I've been, you know, talking about it and writing about it and things, is to try and get it fully sorted out in my own head as to how that fits into the rest of all the things that I've done. But for me, that's probably the hardest part, is trying now to make that all fit together inside myself.
When you were watching the movie Gravity, did you ever say, fake, or hey, that's not bad?
But there was a nice satirical article that somebody wrote that was pretty funny, that I went into a movie theater and was like stood up and booing and threw my shoe at the screen. But
Did you?
I was at the Toronto Film Festival when Gravity premiered, and I got asked to be there, and I'm watching Gravity, and like I realized about 15 minutes into it, I'm making faces. You know, I'm going, oh, I got to stop making faces because people are looking at me. And then about halfway through the movie, I realized they're going to ask me about this like crazy as soon as it's over. So I started thinking about what I was going to say about Gravity. And then at the end of it, the director came out and his son and a couple of the producers and Sandra Bullock came out on stage. And they were asking questions with the audience, and then someone stuck their hand up in the audience and said, I hear Commander Hadfield's in the audience. What did he think of the movie? So, like, I ran down and jumped up on the stage. And I mean, Gravity, no movie has ever had better visuals than Gravity. If you want to see what it looks like to be out on a spacewalk, I mean, the sense of enormity and the Earth being separate from yourself and to be alone in the universe. The movie showed that better than any other movie. But the plot line and the technical stuff, you know, I'm the worst guy in the world to see it. So I got up on stage and the director came over and put his hands on my shoulder and said, be kind. And so I said the visuals were the best of any space movie ever done. And I said, I'm glad none of that stuff happened when I was on the space station. And I said, you know, if I ever fly in space again, I want to fly with Sandra. And then I got off the stage and went and sat down again.
Well done. Well done. The blue hat.
Hi, thank you for all being here. Alison, I just want to say 5 gold and a party.
Yes!
Now,
Titan's Grave, what?
You guys all made a career out of being geeky or what you're passionate about. Were you fearful or had apprehensions about doing it, or what made you guys go for it?
So I made a career out of just doing my normal job, and then having a weird haircut when we landed a car on Mars. But it was awesome. I mean, here's the thing about making a career out of a thing you love means that you're surrounded by the same kind of people. And that's really the best part of it. So like every day I get to go to work with people that I really admire and I aspire to be as good as them, and we share a common passion and share like a common goal. It's the best thing. I can't imagine. And the fact that I'm on a panel with people like this just makes it, really icing on the cake. But it's really the coolest thing in the world to pursue the thing you love.
I think everybody on stage has reinvented themselves several times already, too. And so I think the idea to give yourself a long-term passion, like everybody in this room has something, if everything went perfect, what they'd love to be doing 20 years from now. But then accepting that what you're doing right now isn't exactly that, but make all the little decisions that keep shepherding your life along in that direction, because then you get more of the stuff that you love on a regular basis. And so I think it's really important. And yeah, it won't go right, and you'll run into dead ends, but keep pursuing it, because it's amazing what can happen with all the little decisions that take you that way.
Well, and your question implies that there's a before and an after, like you made a decision and then something happened. And there's no such thing as a before and an after. And it's really easy to fall into the trap when you look at the panelists up here and think of their lives as looking linear, because the stories are told in a linear fashion. But they're the farthest thing from linear possible. And it's really, to me, it's really important to remind people, like, there's always going to be left turns and right turns and wrong turns and dead ends, and that's completely intrinsic to the process.
It's funny, you talk about that there's no like moment that everything changes, or there's a reinvention.
Speak for yourself. I had a very clear moment.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, but here's it's like, okay, no. I did too. I thought, it's like I was directing TV commercials and watching food shows and deciding, you know what, these food shows are boring me. I want to make food shows, so I'm going to quit doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to go to culinary school. And everybody said, you are out of your freaking mind. You are going to be working at McDonald's in 5 years, or, get ready for your red vest at Walmart. And then we all called it career change, but it wasn't. It wasn't a career change at all. And you have to get further back from it and live it a while to realize, oh, that wasn't a career change at all. I was simply acquiring new skills for what I was meant to do anyway. I think that one of the problems is that people think that their passion is enough to get them where they want to go. Oh, I want it so bad. The universe could give a crap about how bad you want anything. What the universe cares about and responds to is how well you can align your capabilities and skill set to what it is you really want to do. Then you actually get somewhere. That's what everybody up here has done. We knew that we wanted to do something, but we also were realistic about our skill sets and what we're capable of doing. So I think that you've got to be willing to roll the dice on big changes in your life. You've got to keep the little piddling crap away so that you're not living in a cage. But you have to realize that it's a big, wide continuum, and that in 20 years you're going to look back and you may not even see where that big turn was anymore.
Yeah, one of the things I've been surprised by as I've managed to get successes that I only dreamed of a few years ago is how difficult it is the whole time. I think you often think there's like a breaking in moment, and then you get through that door and there's just like gummy drops and everyone's there and you just get to do whatever you want, and that doesn't exist. And it's like this huge struggle the entire time. And the thing that I've been trying to deal with the most is, I think with driven people, you really want something. You want to achieve making a movie or getting to the space station or whatever it is. You have this goal that is your driven thing. And it's really difficult to not say to yourself, okay, I'm not enjoying what I'm doing right now, but I'm going to be happy when I get that. Because what happens is you get that, and you're maybe happy for 5 minutes, and then there's something else that you want. And you've spent 95% of your time like not being happy with where you are now, and kind of putting your happiness at a moment in the future. And so what I've been really working on is just trying to really enjoy the process of getting to that point, because that's most of your life. And as soon as you get there, there's going to be something else you want to achieve. I'm sure Steven Spielberg is still, there's something he wants to achieve, and he's struggling to try and get there. And so...
No, he's pretty much good.
All right, there's one guy. But it's hard to really be appreciative of all the little steps and all the things that go wrong. And a friend of mine just told me this saying last week. He's saying, these are the good old days. And trying to remind yourself of kind of like that moment of of trying to get something made is actually all the work. And so that is actually you doing what you want to be doing. And trying to remind yourself all that time is very difficult, but it's important when you're a driven person to kind of celebrate all of the missteps and all of the like kind of struggles to get there.
Somebody took a grease pencil on the inside of the space station and wrote on the wall, "There's nothing more important than what you're doing right now." And I think it's a really good thing to keep up in your head. No, I mean, it's just because it absolutely is not.
Well, it's really hard when you're a driven person to not, because you just put everything on that thing you're trying to achieve. And it's, you really just have to be present, which is difficult, but really important.
Well, and your question too kind of implies, I think this is speaking to Adam's point a little bit, that there is confidence at any point along the way. Like, I don't think I've ever felt like, oh, yeah, here it is, you know. I'm constantly, and I think I speak for pretty much everybody here, and certainly everybody in a creative field, that you're constantly clawing your way with a great deal of uncertainty, like the ground's eroding beneath you.
Yeah, and you're like, so when are they going to all find out I'm just pretending I know what I'm doing? And you're like, okay, I'll just keep saying.
So your only choice is to have fun. Yeah.
All right, so next question. In the back, the lovely red hair.
Why, thank you. That was a very philosophical and wonderful discussion.
Right? I'm learning things. I feel like I'm going to be a better person at the end of this panel. I'm really excited about this.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit more superficial. Adam, I was wondering, did 5 people find you on the floor yesterday? And what were you, and did it involve any cooling systems?
So yesterday morning, Alton and I hit the floor as the twins from The Matrix. Yeah.
Dreadlocks suck.
Dreadlocks. The best was that IO9 actually published a picture of us today, and they didn't realize it was us.
Sweet. I didn't know that.
You committed.
Yeah. And then yesterday afternoon, I hit the floor with a bunch of other Judge Dreds. And we went around, and the first people to recognize me was a sweet couple, and they looked up and they said, "Oh, Dredd, we'd like to," because I had Savage on my badge. This morning, I had spent the last 5 years building a Clavius suit, a silver spacesuit from 2001: A Space Odyssey. I built 2 of them, one for me, one for a friend, the friend isn't getting it yet because today I wore it with Chris Hadfield out on the floor.
Am I gonna be the friend? I want to be the friend.
It has a completely integrated ice pack in the backpack that circulates through the shirt. Chris said it kept him very cool. We walked around, and we did get spotted a couple of times. Yeah, it was awesome.
Even with the visor you couldn't see through, yeah, people figured out because it was such a good costume, only you could have made it.
I realized I was one up on him because he'd never put on a fake spacesuit before.
Another question. We have time for a couple more. Right here, gentlemen.
So, growing up in the 80s and being a nerd in the 80s, part of the club was that you were something unique, something small, something like you said, there weren't many of you, so that was nice. So as nerd culture's expanded and as nerd culture's grown, especially as it comes into contact with some of the negative sides of what nerd culture had come to be and come to be known as, or that insular thing. What are you guys' thoughts on the expansion of nerd culture, especially as it comes into conflict with some of the cultural values that are pushing into it on the outside?
Well, we just keep having to weed out the misogynists. That seems like a pretty good starting policy as far as I'm concerned. Wow, that killed it. Still killing it.
Anyone have anything to add? Nothing?
The question was, how do we feel about it growing so much?
The changes. What are your opinions on the changes?
I mean, I think it's awesome that so many people are embracing this. I was commenting just at this Comic-Con alone, I feel like there's way more families here than there normally are, people with their babies and things like that. And I love that embracing anything nerdy has become a family trip, you know, that it's something you share with just your family. It's not something that you go and you find your, 4 other friends and you play Dungeons and Dragons. It's something you can embrace with your entire family. And I guess as someone who was lucky enough to grow up in a family like that, it's really cool to see it spreading. And I say the more the merrier, man.
Yeah, I think the only thing for me that I think I totally agree with Alison. I think it's also awesome because so many people in the community are creators and creative people, and to see that expand, it's really great. The only thing that scares me a little is there's sometimes this culture of like, no, this is my thing and you can't have it. And I don't want to see that happen. And I think if we actually stay true to our real values of this is a community and we welcome people in the community, we're good. This is the right way to appreciate culture.
Nerd is no longer niche.
I like that.
Should be on a shirt. You
But
just
I
write
want
it
to be in a
yours.
nerd niche.
Another question? Young lady right here, another red hair. We'll give you a microphone right there.
Since several of you have backgrounds in the hard sciences, what is your favorite science fiction? What kind of drew you into the pop culture side of it? Is there a certain movie or TV series or something that you look back on fondly?
Sure. I mean, Star Trek, for me, the optimism of the show and the fact that it represented a better humanity made me want to work towards creating that itself. And then Arthur C. Clarke, just because he did such an incredible job of marrying real science and science fiction.
What really inspired me was Jules Verne, Mysterious Island, actually, which was pitting people that had a scientific background, but putting them in an entirely new environment, and then having to invent and create and use what was there in order to build an ability to live successfully. To me, that was just the essence of human adventure, and it inspired me as a young kid.
Michael Crichton for me.
Mine was Isaac Asimov, for sure.
I mean, I loved Star Wars, and I was also really into Kurt Vonnegut books. So I mean, I didn't pick a career in science, but it definitely, those things helped me fall more into the geek world.
Yeah, for me it was Star Trek TNG. That was pretty much and just had that on all the time. The other kind of fundamental movie for me was Jurassic Park, because I was taken to it when I was 10 years old, having only ever seen children's movies, sitting like terrified. Like my mom had no idea what it was, and I was really that moment where you think everything is real, and I was screaming and covering my eyes and had nightmares. But I remember into the second act, once they're past the fence, and I remember realizing, oh my God, I'm alive. Like this movie hasn't killed me. And then that moment of like, oh, I hope I didn't miss the dinosaurs, and being really, really like excited. And then the kitchen scene and everything at the end was actually watch that. And then that, from that moment on, wanted to make movies and kind of remade that scene over and over and over again in most of my films. But that was really cool at that moment, actually in the middle of the film, realizing what movies were, that they weren't real and that it had that effect. So that was kind of my pivotal movie.
I saw Jurassic Park in the theater 4 times. 4 times. And that was, in 1994 when people didn't really do that all that much. 4 times.
You were
and my
such a
dad
nerd.
bought it for me the day it came out on VHS. VHS. And I was homesick from school with the flu, and I watched it every single day. No, I had already been homesick, and he brought it home as a present for me. And then I watched it every single day for a week. That's how much I loved that movie.
I used to take the chocolate, the Turtles chocolates, those ones? I'd flip the canister over, the little plastic tin, and I'd push those things like buttons and pretend I was on Star Trek. Anything I had to do took like 12 buttons. And then I had to turn it over and reset them all. You want me to open it again? You got it. And I also liked that they didn't have any schedules. Like there was no it's 8 a.m., you gotta get up and this is what you have to do. It's like, let's go this way now. All right. Another one right at the back. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I take that back. I have to be that guy. I was having such a good time, you guys.
I know.
This was a wild panel. This got really deep and really wonderful for a while, didn't it? Thank you guys so much for being here. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you all. Thank you.